Hi guys, and welcome to a new episode on this channel. Today we'll be talking about this book called The Civil War Leaders. Now I hope you will enjoy this book, and let's go on and talk about it. Now what this book is about? Well, let's talk about all the great generals, all those leaders, and all those soldiers, and all the greatest strategies of the time of the Civil War. And there were lots and lots of brave leaders. Like that. Now there were lots and lots of people right here, and there were loads and loads of generals, like Northern generals right here, who are better looking but a little dumber, and the other generals, like right here, Southern generals, who were weirder looking and also low class, but however still more brilliant. Now, that's basically how each of these pages is about. But let's just go on about it. There were loads and loads of generals, such as George B. McClellan, like this guy right here. George B. McClellan, yeah, like that. And other generals. George B. McClellan was one of those greatest generals, one of those first generals of the time. However, he had a weakness. He never listened to the president. The president was like, "Go there, McClellan." And I was like, "No. What if they had a big, scary army down there?" And it went just like that. And finally, on the last day, when George B. McClellan was ordered to go and get the Confederates, he was like, "No," and everyone was like, "No way!" And Abraham had enough of McClellan's stupidity. So it went up like this. George B. McClellan, the general, was fired. Well, George B. McClellan had lots of weaknesses, I said. He always lost a battle, as George B. McClellan was right here, he might be good looking, but he can walk the walk. He can talk the talk, but can he walk the walk? No. And other amazing figures came out, but almost all the other figures after George B. McClellan were kind of only lasted one battle. They all lost these battles until Ulysses S. Grant came along. Now Ulysses S. Grant is best known for his 18th president of the United States, but however, there was one thing that I have to tell you about this. He looks more like Indiana Jones to me in this black fashion picture. And there were lots and lots of things that we had to worry about him. And if you want to talk about all this financial stuff and all that stuff, I'd say go for Indiana Jones. But for now, let's just skip this part for now. And however, he did have lots of generals and all that stuff, and he was pretty good at all those wars. He was a pretty good military strategist, and about equal with his strategy level with about Robert E. Lee, which we'll explain later, and all those stuff. And then this was one of the things that made him famous. The March to the Sea. And Sherman actually done everything. And this is actually what Sherman actually did. Sherman was the other general that Ulysses S. Grant actually trusted. And it went out like this. And their plan was this: Ulysses S. Grant goes to Richmond, fights there, and then Sherman comes onto the other side of Richmond and he fights there. Sherman actually arrived to the Richmond first, but however, along the way he destroyed lots of things, like a Hulk, destroying everything. And then Robert E. Lee was actually in a siege with Ulysses S. Grant. So it was not until a year after Robert E. Lee ran away from the fort. And that was it. They came there. And then finally Richmond was down, but that's basically how everything ended. And surprisingly, here's George, and here's George Custer. He's best known for the cowboy movies like Hee-Haw! Pew, 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 pew. Of the Battle of Little Bighorn, and of once a person said that the battle was the Battle of Little Big Mouth. It's Battle of Little Bighorn, and also he died there. He dies there. But however, he first fought in the Civil War first, though. Now this was one of those battles that was one of the Union victory, and this guy named Philip was the one who won it. But however, he did have a lot of losses. And this is the Confederacy. Welcome to the Confederacy. Confederacy. Now, the Confederacy was a new government that happened here, and this is some parts of what the Confederacy locals would do. These were called plantations, and these plantations were pretty much slaveries, and also it had more cotton, and the cotton gin expanded the economy of the South. And since that they left the Union, they needed a new money system, so they went up with this. But however, it was less worth than the U.S. dollars that the Union were using. Like $10 was even less than the Union's $10. That was pretty cheap and also lame. Now, let's talk about the president of the CSA. Now you might know Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the USA. Well, he was pretty good and all that stuff, and also he was the good side on this guy. But however, the other side, the bad guys that we call today, was President Jefferson Davis. Now, Jefferson Davis was the president of the CSA, and he was the last president and the first president of the CSA. And this is exactly why. First of all, his 4-term year was basically all. And then second of all, this is what happens. President Jefferson Davis might look a bit like Thomas Jefferson, but he is rather pretty otherwise, and all pretty different from him. And also, they were never linked with their DNA, even though their looks are similar. And also, one thing of it, that he fought in the Mexican War, and he thought that without a job, everybody will give him the greatest job of all, being the general. But however, instead they made him president, which made him weep. Whoop, whoop, womp, womp, womp. And this is what President Jefferson actually got after the war, after a month of the war. After the month of the end of the Civil War. And then he died here. Womp, womp, womp. Other side here, please. Now, this was the greatest general of the time at all. And this guy is a Confederacy and a Virginian, Robert E. Lee. Now, Virginia was part of the Confederacy. And Robert E. Lee was a Virginian. And he was pretty liking the Virginian people. But however, when he was deciding on which way to go, the Union or the Confederacy, he was like, since Virginia is a Confederate thing, I go Confederacy. Robert E. Lee was the greatest military strategist of the whole time. It's like he's on a chessboard or something. If he's on the chessboard, he would win every chess game. And that's exactly what happened. To him, the battles were all like chess games. And also he was the chess champion of all of those battles. But however, he was made the chess champion until the Battle of Gettysburg, the chess game of Gettysburg, and he lost. He miscalculated a move, and also there were more pawns there on the board, yeah, like that. And then Robert E. Lee lost the battle of Gettysburg. And here is Thomas Stonewall Jackson, or just Stonewall Jackson. Now, Thomas Jackson was his original name, and first of all, he stood like a stone wall. Everybody was like, "Hey, there is Thomas There's Jackson, just like a stone wall." And then when the president heard of it, went like this: the messenger, Mr. President, Jackson whipped us so hard that everybody's calling him Stonewall Jackson now. Really? That's the reason? Not because his face looks like he ran into a stone wall? Apparently not, sir. Yep. And then basically this is one of his greatest battles and his greatest victories of all time. Look, by the way, he's a Confederate, and here it is. Here's the map of where he fought on his first victories, and it's probably the greatest victory of all. Take a look. Looking is done. Now let's go into the next page. Now this is more sovereign leaders. There are loads and loads of sovereign leaders. This is Pickett's charge at the Battle of Gettysburg, and later he blames Robert E. Lee for all the damage of his troops. And this is exactly how many troops he lost. 80% of his troops were dead or wounded. And then there were other battles, like this one. This is the Confederate States who went to war. And this is General E. Lee's, General J.E.B. Stewart's cavalry scouting in 1862. He was supposed to go to the Union places and spot their location. However, he was like, yeah, let's just steal them. He likes long rides. So he went and stole from Union tribes, Union camps, and destroying their locations. And also Robert E. Lee was like, WTF, Mao? Like this. Wait, where are the coordinates of the Union? I'm like, I destroyed them, sir. What? Yes, I destroyed them. And then everything was unuseful. He was eventually fired, but he lost to Gettysburg. But first, he could have been fired, but he was killed in Gettysburg. Well, that's what they say, though, but we don't really know that much about him. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. Please like, share, and subscribe to the video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Shinhan out. Peace! The end.